Welcome to the 2025 Christmas light teardown. This is what the part of the show I had for this year's Christmas display at a place on Kathleen Street. I had my 28 foot mega tree. Top of the tree is about 28 feet. I know the ribbon strands are 25 feet long, and they kind of stretch out a little. But we have the mini trees and different sizes here. I had my medium-sized mega tree here. The wind took it down by one of my turnbuckles unscrewing to keep the guy lines tight. So it fell over, hit the car, but the stars saved the car. So a little bit of what I've got going. I'll start with one of the controllers on the one that fell down. This is a remote Falcon controller that I use to control this tree and the arches and the mini trees out there. I'll go quickly walk around. These trees are made of 8211 pixel LEDs, they call them, and I have them stuck in this ribbon at 2 inches apart. So there's 50 per string on this particular one. To see it in action, you'll have to check the other YouTube channel that I have with the display to see what it looks like. So there was 16 strips of LEDs, 50 each strip. And so that took up, I believe, one channel. And then I had a channel for the star that I just stuck in the ground after it blew over. That's how upset I was about that. And across here I have these arches. I've had these arches running here for probably about the last 6 seasons. 2 seasons ago I put the little mini trees in. So the arches I started with the strip lights before, and they were just a pain in the butt. Sometimes they'd work and not work. So I went to the LED pixels, same as you see in all the trees. I use it everywhere. 1 pixel, 1 type for the whole display, and it works out really good. So I have 6 arches. Next year, my neighbor said I can continue on down the sidewalk, and so I probably will add another 6 arches. Arches are made out of PEX tubing. This is 3/4 inch. I have it wrapped around 1/2 inch conduit. I kind of split the bottom, as you can see. This time a little split at the bottom of that one. And then I just pound it on, and then I just make some holes with a post driver and a 3/4 inch, just make holes and then push them in the holes. And to attach it together, I just flatten the ends of a conduit with a clamp and clamp the pole, and the wires come out of it. As you can see, one lead comes out here by the tree. And it's pretty straightforward. This year I decided to go the X connectors on everything. No messing around with those little connectors that get water in them and cause havoc. So everybody uses the same connector, so I standardized on that. When I first started it, I said, well, that's a lot of money for cables. But as I had headaches over the years, I said, let me get rid of that problem. And this year I had no problem with water, and it rained a bit this year. As you can see how the lawn is totally outgrowing my trees, as this one is pretty well hiding in the bush, and I think they found something to climb too. So fortunately the California and the rains and pretty decent weather, like today's a nice day to tear it all down, but it continues to grow. I haven't been able to mow the lawn for almost a month now, and it'll be done tomorrow. So gotta get this out of here so we can get it done. And so, yeah, clover and some of this other stuff is kind of taking over the lawns, I guess. Put some weed killer on it, looks like. But this is the mega tree. I have it surrounded with another 8 of these little mini trees. I call them the small mini trees. But as you can see, the tree, it's pretty tall and looks pretty nice from the street. And I have these guy lines here. They don't do much because the pole is, that supports the tree is a 2-inch galvanized pole, 20 feet long, with 1.5 inches inside of it, and it goes in the ground about 2 feet. You know, I did a water jet to make a hole in it, and I lined it with a PVC. So every year I slip it in. This has been the 4th year I'll be using this configuration, because the first year I had galvanized pipe and it broke at the connection. So as you can see, there's my winch up there to winch it up, and then the inner pole goes up to the top. And as you can see, all the cables hang down with all my connectors I put on the end of the ribbons up there, because 150 up, 150 has to come down. So wired up there. And I know it's waterproof and don't have to worry about it not working now because of water getting in it. And I also, since the strings of 50 LEDs long, at every 50 strings was a connector. So I had to, I cut off the ends and then I soldered them together on it, so I did this last month or a month before that. It kind of got a little behind this year. But, cable goes up to the star at the top. So altogether, this has 24 ribbons. I call them ribbons of the LEDs, and each ribbon has 150 LEDs. So I've got 24, so roughly 900 per channel, and I have 4 channels going. So, there's 3,600 plus another 270 on stuff. So I got close to 4,000 just sitting on this tree. So I'm gonna split up the channels this year because I have a little bit of power problems. Blowing a fuse, blowing a 5 amp fuse because each one is, so I'm having 20 amps just for the ribbon, so I have to break it up a little bit. And I have plenty of rooms on my controller. This is a remote control, a Falcon remote controller. It would just blow these fuses every other night because I was pulling about 5.3 amps. Just bending that fuse element, then it just had enough. So I have some power injection going here, back out, and then I just using the input connector and hook it to the output of the light. So this controller is going to be dedicated for this tree, and each one has its own power supply. These are my channel numbers, based on the Falcon controller, master controller, and the same for that controller over there. So I dedicated a controller just for this tree alone. I'm supporting the little mini trees around it on one channel because there's 100 per tree, so I'm not too worried about them, and they seem to behave pretty good. Over here I have 6 medium-sized mini trees. They for the most part work pretty good. I might split their channel next year. These I definitely have to because the last tree was getting irritable with me, and just the colors were wrong because I think I had the power injection along there, and it was just, I think, end of the line and the end of the channel, my signal was getting bad. I'm not sure. I have to investigate that more this year for next year and make that work. For these trees, I made custom cabling that plugs into each ribbon. All the ribbons are made exactly alike, so I can just interchange them at will, but I actually do have them numbered. But the signal goes in, and then between them, it goes up and then down, and then I have to jump over to the next one. So between them, I inject between each one. So this cable just goes in and out here, grabs 12 volts, and then the 12 volts goes down to the next cable. And I do it several times. And at the very end, when it comes back down, it jumps the last one. But I also had another cable going back to that one connection where the 12 volts comes out. So it's on the a second fuse for each channel. And I don't want to do that really too bad. I'd rather just have one fuse support it. Then I know, it's coming out of the same controller, so I'm not too worried, but I'd rather just have one fuse support the string. So as you can see, we have a string laying on the ground. One of the windy days knocked it out of the top, and it broke the little tie wrap holding it up, and just yanked it down because I tied together those nice connectors now. And so I just slid some over, and so instead of 24 channels, I had 22. So just the last 2 channels didn't make any difference because they were at the end of the string. So I just changed, the programming, or just rewired it a little bit and made it work. I could change the programming a little bit, but it was easy enough just to change the cables around. So yeah, for the most part, now I've standardized on cables. Every year when I put everything together, these cables go with these trees, because after a while, a wire is a wire, and it gets a little difficult to know which one's which. I had a couple extra trees, so I just threw them over here, and the cable runs over here. As you can see, I have all these tubes, PVC tubes, going out, and they're the electrical ones. And I just run the wires inside them, except for power. I run this way because, they're coiled up and they want to hang up in the air, and I've tripped over enough wires to say I'm tired of this. Those I'm not worried about in the middle because it's in the middle. But the dogs wander across the lawn, get tangled up in, and kids wander in. I don't want them getting tangled up, so I try to It keeps it a little neater too. I should paint them black or green next year so they're not so obvious, but it does help, with the wires. As you can see, I didn't have the corner here. You see my network cable goes out to that controller, because that's all you need. Then you see my power is laying on the ground. So with the power with a big plug on the end, it's a little hard to stick in that pipe. So I'll have to figure out what I'm gonna do next year, if I'm gonna do that. It's worked fine for this year. All I do is just put one of these waterproof connectors on it, where I plug it in, and it works fine. So going back to the brains of the operation, this is my post driver for driving the post in the hole in the ground. We'll start at the bottom. This is my power distribution area and my networking. Power comes in here to this IP-based switch. I can turn on and off each individual switch individually. So that helps out a lot. So I want to power down the subcontrollers, or even the master control. If I want to do a reboot of the computer and stuff, I can do it all remotely. I'm working on the software to enable the ports and turn them on and off prior to the show, and instead of running all the time during the day, because the LEDs do use power even though they're off. They're waiting for a signal. So we have 10,000 LEDs out there waiting for a signal. They don't need to be waiting for a signal if they don't have power. I mean, they don't need power to wait for a signal that's not going to come for a while. So this is a Falcom V5, 16 V5 controller. I picked it up last year. It has E-fuses, so they reset themselves. This year, I think I did something to it on the lower channel, so I had to shift everything over because I had polarity change on the power out in the field, out in the lawn. So I think it might have blown up. I have to check. It didn't work, so I just shifted everything over, and it works fine now. Just leave it alone. I need to get a second one as a backup, because if it broke, it'd be 3 weeks before I get a new one. So, a spare is a good thing to have. And I have the old version that I could slap in there, and it works fine. But I might use that one for the roof. But I might get another one just to have as a spare. Up here, I have a Pi 5 controlling, a Pi 4 controlling. It's the Falcom controller software, FPP, is on there. And it runs the whole show. It runs down this network, and then it runs up to this board to run the show. And then I also have an audio board, and then my FM transmitter with the antenna. I didn't use FM this year. I don't have my show animated with music yet. It takes quite a bit more time to program that in, so I have not done that yet. Next year, planning for next year, I'm going to see if I can get some sequencing stuff and done to music to see how that works out. That's pretty much it for the operations and everything. I have one string going up here for my roof line lights on the gutters. And that's all I had to do. They had the C9 look-alike lights. I've had those about 5 or 6 years. And the connector, the little clips go bad after a while. They start breaking, and I see them on the ground all the time now. And because the sun doesn't like them, or they don't like the sun. So I plan on next year adding a total roof line along the roof, and some signage, and maybe signs and decorations like snowflakes and stuff like the snowflakes I have over here. And I bought these the first year. These are the first year props I've had, these snowflakes. They work pretty good. I had some big snowflakes, and the wind knocked them down, and I had to rebuild them because they come split and they fold, and it broke the stick holding them together. So I took them down. They go across the garage door I have here. And then I have the candy canes here, which was my very first props I made, the 3D candy canes, which I really like. They look really cool at night. And that one didn't work too good this year. I think it's a voltage drop, another one with voltage drop issues. So I ran so much voltage out there, it shouldn't have dropped, but I think my signal's getting bad. So I have to get more engineering into that, see what's wrong with my signal, get my oscilloscope on and see what the heck's going on. So that is kind of what how I got set up for this year. I was trying to light the cow up. I opened it up, looked at the lights in it, and I said, I'm not gonna mess with this. So that's it for the show this year. So I'll say goodbye to y'all, and you have a good holiday season, and we'll see what we got going for next year. Thank you so much. Thanks for watching.